Thank you, Jeanette. I mean, Nicole. Hi, my name is Max, and I am not Nicole's dog. Alright, so everyone has a biggest fear, right? Most people are afraid of things that are actually scary, like the dark, spiders, the in-laws, dying alone. But I'm not afraid of those things, no. My biggest fears actually are needles and fruit, which is pretty weird considering the fact that I'm a 6.5 foot tall gay guy. And I've always been afraid of needles, and I've never really liked fruit, but I wasn't afraid of fruit until this one time I was at the doctor's office. I was there because I had to get a college physical, which is like a normal physical, but it's for college. And it actually does a pretty good job of preparing you for college. Peeing in unfamiliar places, random people touching your genitals, and shots, which prepares you for all the heroin you do in college. Okay, you got me. I did heroin before I got to college. Just kidding, I'm afraid of needles. Speaking of that, at the doctor's office, I had to get my blood drawn. And I've never had my blood drawn before, or given blood. Maybe because I'm afraid of needles, maybe because they didn't want my homosexual demon blood. But the woman drawing my blood, she had a lazy eye, which I know is not her fault, but generally when I'm being penetrated, I like to at least be able to make eye contact. And despite her disability, she was actually able to draw my blood pretty well. However, after she finished robbing me of the liquid I require to live, you guessed it, I passed out. So to remedy this situation, my brilliant nurse reaches into her little mini fridge and pulls out a can of orange juice. And not a bottle, not a box, a can. And now, I don't like fruit, so giving me orange juice is like giving me AIDS. But giving me orange juice from a can is like giving me AIDS, but from an ugly one-night stand who also happened to be a Trump supporter that you faked it for. And I know it's kind of hard to fake it as a guy, but he was a Trump supporter, so he was stupid enough to believe that I orgasmed and nothing came out. Anyway, so I looked at this can of orange juice, and I looked at my nurse in the eye, and like the 6.5 foot tall child that I am, I said, I don't like orange juice. And like the gay child that I am, I threw in, and bitch, it's in a can. I don't think that's what she wanted to hear, because she basically pounced on me and poured it down my throat. So I did what any respectable, upstanding gentleman would do. I threw up on her. So now there is regurgitated pulp mixed with my hopes and dreams all over this doctor's office, which kind of goes back to the whole college thing, just like regurgitating up your hopes and dreams and they're gone forever. And so the nurse decides that she needs to move me into a different room because this one's covered in vomit. However, she's about 5 feet tall and I'm barely conscious, so she puts me in a wheelchair. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a person with trees for legs sit in a wheelchair, but it ain't pretty. My legs were sticking straight out and banging into everything. I think it gave me more bruises than my ex-boyfriend. Oh. Just kidding, these bruises are from my father. And to top it all off, I still had citrus vomit fermenting in my mouth. So the nurse gives me ice chips, which I basically inhaled, only to be reminded that the previous day I had 2 fillings. Ice and fillings was just the cherry on top of my own personal hell. But that's okay, because Leviticus says I deserve hell. That is all I got for you tonight. Thank you so much.